Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Tonight, I'm joined by Molly Farrenhold, who's a writer for Evie magazine. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So I want to talk to you because you wrote an article for Evie magazine a couple months ago that caught my attention. And what I liked about it was I thought it was a really gentle perspective on what you were talking about it. And it was titled, "I'm a Young Mom and I Wouldn't Have It Any Other Way." So just to start off, why did you feel compelled to write this article?
I am just very convicted that more women, especially young women, need to be exposed to motherhood because society nowadays just really forces women into the path of education and career. And I really just want to provide the perspective of somebody who had chosen motherhood at a younger age.
And is this a perspective you've seen a lot of places in what you read or in articles? Because I haven't really seen the perspective of celebrating it as a positive for being a young mother right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, in the circles that I run in, yeah, there are a lot of young moms, but when you take a step back and look at our culture as a whole, you don't see motherhood really, you know, in a positive light anymore, which is really, really unfortunate.
And when you were growing up, were there sources that you went to sort of cast it in a positive role, or was it people you saw in person? What was sort of your idea of what it would look like if you had one?
Yeah, my mom was young when she had me, and I babysat a lot, I nannied. I've always just really been drawn to motherhood, which I think is a very natural thing for women. And I fortunately grew up in a family where that was not suppressed. And I went to Catholic school my whole life. And obviously, you know, it was very celebrated in the schools that I attended. And so I think it was just more of a matter of it was a natural calling, and I was not suppressed in that desire.
And you wrote in the article that you turned down career opportunities and you sort of changed your trajectory. Was that something that you received a lot of pushback from people your age or from your family?
Fortunately, no. I did make the decision to quit collegiate running for health reasons, and health reasons very centered on the fact that I wanted to have children down the road, and continuing on this track of competitive running was not going to be conducive to that. I decided against graduate school because my then fiance and I, knew that once we got married, we wanted to have children, and for me to be a stay-at-home mother. So again, among my friends and family, there was not a lot of pushback, but it's more of those strangers that you encounter. You engage them in conversation. They kind of give you the raised eyebrow. Oh, you graduated from this school. You majored in this. Why did you not go to grad school? Why are you not pursuing a career? Is this all there is for you? And it's those subtle questions, those subtle comments that really kind of are emblematic of what our society as a whole believes and is pushing right now.
And have you seen other women have to experience that? Because I know it can be hurtful to sort of have your questions, your decisions questioned on that kind of level. Did it hold you back a little bit, or did it hurt other women who maybe went through the same thing, do you think?
It certainly didn't hold me back. I was very convicted, and like I said, for a long time that I wanted to be a mother. But I have actually recently spoken to other women that are in grad school or are pursuing careers, but are also choosing motherhood. And there's a lot of skepticism surrounding what they're doing, just from outsiders that that don't know them personally, but feel that they can comment on their choices. And I'm sure most of it is benign, or even maybe not well intentioned, but not badly intentioned. But those questions are in a sense hurtful to these women, and there's just a lot of confusion surrounding motherhood today.
And in the article, you wrote about the pluses to young motherhood. You have a lot of energy. You can relate to your kids. What do you think you found so far, because your child is quite young, to be the biggest plus for you as a young mother?
the biggest plus, you know, it's just spending my days with her. It's the opportunity that I have to watch her grow every day, and to be present for all of that. And yeah, the energy is great because she's a very active, very busy little girl. Um, but this is everything I've ever wanted, as I spoke to in my article. And so really, when people say chase your dreams, which I don't think is great advice, but that's a totally different tangent that I won't go on right now. Um, this really is fulfilling for me. And so people say when they say chase your dreams, I did with motherhood, and I am living the dream. I love every day home with my daughter.
And you wrote that it strengthened having a baby can strengthen your marriage. I know from being in high school recently, there's sort of this perspective amongst girls that it would hurt your marriage to have a baby early on, that you should take time to sort of build your life separately before you have a child. Do you think that it can strengthen your marriage even if you have a baby further down the road?
Absolutely. Here's the thing. Um, Babies are such a gift, but they also they bring a lot of trials into a marriage, because suddenly you're forced outside of yourself. You have to be selfless. You have to grow a lot in virtue and maturity, and in so many ways it really stretches you. Parenthood stretches you, and so going through those trials, even if it's just sleepless nights those first 3 months, that really does, or it can grow and strengthen love, or it can really hurt a marriage. But it's all about how you respond to those trials, as with anything. So yes, I do think down the road, that situation remains the same. But if you face those trials early on, how much stronger will your marriage be 10 years down the road?
Right. And because you're probably around a lot of other young moms, I was curious because I recently graduated high school. Do you see a lot of young women who regret the decision to have a baby early on? Are there people who express, regret that they dove right into it, or is there pretty much happiness surrounding it in your view?
Um, I don't think I've ever met a mom that regrets having her child. Um, I have met women who wanted to get married and have babies earlier, and that just was not in God's plan for them. But I see that desire more than I have ever seen any regret for choosing motherhood. um I see the brokenness of women who just really really want babies.
Yeah.
So it it saddens me when you see um society telling young women to not choose motherhood, because there are so many women who are open to that call, to that fruitfulness, and know that motherhood is fulfilling. Um,
And is that that pressure you're talking about? Did you feel it in academia when you were in college? Because I know you said you went to a Catholic school. So was that pressure present when you were in college amongst friends or teachers or other people?
Pressure to not have children.
Yeah, to delay it, to go forward with a career, build something else professionally.
Yeah, certainly in college. I went to a secular college. Really, it's more of the silence on motherhood. It's not talked about. It's not presented as a good option for
Right.
women. Um, the only thing that's talked about is furthering your education, furthering your career, and choosing and pursuing those paths. Motherhood is never presented as a beautiful alternate path to further education and career.
So it's not even really laid out on the, like if there was a career fair, it's not there. It's not really listed as one of the viable choices.
Right. And they don't even make um, they don't make college conducive to pursuing motherhood. I was recently speaking to somebody who works for like a right to life group at
Mhm.
a local university, and
Mhm.
she was saying that the gyms on college campuses don't have any like daycare centers, because it's just assumed that young women in college are not going to be mothers, or not going to pursue motherhood. And so it's little things like that. Just our culture is no longer conducive to young motherhood.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because I remember girls in my high school who would say, like, I wish I didn't have to go do this college thing. Like, that's what they would say. I want to just be a mom. And it was sort of looked down upon a little bit, even by the other students. Do you think that there's a culture building, even amongst women going into school, of looking down on other women who may want to pursue motherhood?
Certainly. Yeah. You know, I think our society tends to lift up these women who pursue their own, and I'll call them selfish aims. We have this idea of the boss lady, and
Mhm.
that's seen as good and beautiful and virtuous. Without using those words because um, you know
Not allowed
those
to use those words. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. um, when in reality, fulfilling our nature, and we are naturally drawn to motherhood. Women are supposed to be vessels. Pursuing that is just seen as this, antiquated, um, symptom of a patriarchal society. It's seen as a negative, seen as, a form of oppression for women. Um, and yeah, we're just not exposing young women to the beauty that it actually is when you pursue that innate calling that we have.
There's definitely a lack of exposure to the benefits of it. And so I want to ask you, like, do you have a fun life as a young mother? Because there's a perception that everything just sort of becomes a huge struggle. We see that in most television shows, especially for young people, that everything is just some horrible, endless marathon. Like, what is the reality of your life as a young mother?
Yeah, it is funny because I think, the stay-at-home mom life is very hidden. I recently
Mhm.
had somebody ask me if it's like being quarantined all the time. Everyone's familiar with that idea of quarantine after, the pandemic. But yeah, so we have this hidden life. So people either think that it's super boring or that it's just so difficult. It has this idea of, there's this idea that, motherhood is dreadful. Um, I have a very fun life. I love it. I love every day. Yes, it is challenging. It is a full-time job for sure, but it's a beautiful job. Um, C.S. Lewis said that the homemaker has the ultimate career, and that all other careers exist to support the ultimate career. And it's true because what I do every day is, I raise the future generation, and I make our house a home, and everybody loves home. It's the most
Yeah.
beautiful thing in society, right? Everyone loves to come home. Um, and yeah, and it's like I said, it has its trials, but every day is beautiful. I love being with my daughter, watching her grow. We do have a very good routine. We get to do a lot of fun things, and
Yeah.
I would not trade this for a 9 to 5 job.
And I think that's a good point to make, because I think people don't think that there are fun things to be had as a stay-at-home mom. There's fun things that you can do with your children. And one of the other reasons I wanted to have you on is because you made a point in your article about the healthiness of pregnancies, the younger that you are, sort of the ease that you can have. Obviously, not for all women. For a lot of women, it can improve your chances of getting pregnant if you start in your 20s. And is that something that you yourself knew about growing up? Did you have to learn that later in life? Because I know a lot of girls who would not know that necessarily, who might think it'd be easier not in their 40s, but not necessarily in their 20s to have a baby.
Yeah, I don't know if that is spoken about a lot. I do remember, when my youngest brother was born, that my mom she was in her 30s, mid 30s, but she was labeled an at-risk pregnancy because, quite honestly, when you hit, the age of 32, your fertility does decline. You hit the age of 35, it declines, rapidly, and you do run into the risk of miscarriage and birth defects, and just a harder pregnancy overall. That's not to say older women should not get pregnant, but if you're looking to start a family, you really really should consider starting earlier, for your health and for the baby's health.
And I wanted to know, just because I think you provide advice through a lot of your articles, not just this one, but what would your advice be for parents or friends or something to encourage people to maybe look at motherhood as a positive? Because there is, again, so much negativity presented. And there's a real, I think, encouragement gap amongst people right now from young motherhood, especially.
Yeah. I really think just the best thing for young mothers to do is to be a witness to others, to speak about the beautiful aspects of motherhood, to invite other young women into their lives, and show them this is what motherhood is. It's a beautiful calling. I do feel very fulfilled in having children, and I think for young girls to seek out those mentors, and to not listen to all the noise of the world that says you need to go to college, you need to go to grad school, you need to get a job before you do all of these things. Listen to those natural tuggings on your heart that say, I want love in my life. I want to get married. I want to have babies, because that's what we are created for as women. We are, like I said, we're made to be receptive, to be vessels. And for some women, yes, that is fulfilled in biological motherhood. For others, it's fulfilled in spiritual, intellectual, emotional motherhood. But we all have that calling, and so it's important to pursue those natural desires.
And I think that it just comes down to discerning which path you want to take, but it's important to have all the perspectives laid out. Just sort of in closing, because one of the reasons I want to do this interview is I don't think adults always realize the pressure on young women to keep pursuing the next step going forward, whatever it is, whether that's grad school or even doing an undergrad degree. So just sort of in closing, do you think that that pressure has increased for women to not go down the young motherhood path, the motherhood path at all? Or is it sort of decreasing with a higher presence of young women interested in motherhood?
I think it depends on, like I said earlier, in which circles you're running in. But yes, overall, I do think society is pushing the feminist agenda, which is for women to quite honestly become more like men, to enter the workforce, to pursue their own ideas of what will be fulfilling for them. And yeah, we are not, we can see statistically that women are having babies later, or they're not getting married as young as they used to. So I think the statistics do speak to the fact that motherhood is not being encouraged.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your perspective and your story. I really enjoyed your article, and people can check out more articles at Evie Magazine below. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much. Have a good day.
Okay.